not too far from where I am, and I am looking down now past the Treasury building to the motorcade for the Vice President. So we were waiting to see if, this is really the moment that the President had to get out and walk down Pennsylvania Avenue past the Treasury building, past the White House, into the White House. So we're going to wait and see if we are perhaps going to get a glimpse of the Vice President and the second gentleman. Right now they're holding in place as we listen to the Howard University drum line, which is quite festive, I must add, just down the way. It's really wonderful. And so that's of course her alma mater, the Vice President's alma mater. So we are waiting to see at this point in time, as we are looking down Pennsylvania Avenue here towards her motorcade. I will also mention that there is a truck of press that is tracking her in order to get some good views of the President and the Vice President. They have been followed by open deck trucks with large contingents of press on them. You're looking now at a shot of the Howard University marching band, and what we sort of saw before was this kind of, for the President, this grand entrance by the University of Delaware marching band. So we're waiting to see if that's what we see with the Vice President coming this way. Hopefully, Aaron, we're keeping our eye out right here.
Yeah, we'd see it, and as you said, the Howard University band there, and they paused sort of like this as well for the President, when President Biden, of course, and the First Lady got out and walked. Brianna, I know where you were actually. At one point, the President sort of running over and talking to someone in the press. He did that again other times. So obviously we are anticipating, it is quite likely, obviously, that the Vice President and her husband, the second gentleman, will also be getting out. Kate Bennett is there. Yeah. Sorry, Kate, are you closer or is Brianna closer?
I think I'm closer. I think I might be a little bit closer. I can see the back of the Vice President's car. We just are seeing some of her family members, Doug Emhoff's children, the Vice President's stepchildren, walk towards her vehicle in much the same way we just saw the Biden grandchildren walk towards the President and First Lady. Sort of seems like the same setup here. So that they will meet the vehicle with the Vice President. Hopefully, as we saw with the Bidens, get out of the car and walk a bit towards the White House. It looks like they're about to get out of the car. We just had the Howard University drum line go through too right before the Vice President and her alma mater. There she is. Kamala Harris has gotten up. Brianna, I don't know if you have a better angle than I do, but they are out of the car. They're about to take a walk with their family, continuing the tradition, even in this era of COVID, even in this very high security, tenuous time. This is a rite of passage that now the Vice President is continuing, as she historically greets her first afternoon and evening as Vice President of the United States.
Yes, yeah, obviously the family, this one of these moments I know, other years obviously we've all been along these parade routes and you see how the first and second families get out and start walking. It is such an integral part of this, a part of the tradition and part of the family nature of this special moment. And here they are, the Vice President Kamala Harris and her family, along with, of course, her husband, his children. You can see them all walking along there together on that route, just as Joe Biden did moments ago. So they'll continue walking there up, of course, to the White House, where the President has already gone in. What can you see from where you are now, Brianna?
I am seeing the Vice President and her entourage approaching here, but I think if we take this moment just to realize how historic this is, Aaron, and the fact that all across the country there are little girls who are watching this moment right now with their parents or their grandparents, and they're never going to know a time where there wasn't a woman who was Vice President, which is obviously a very different situation than most people have experienced. This is a first, and this is a new normal for a lot of young people out there as they watch Kamala Harris here walking down Pennsylvania Avenue. Right now, she and her family, the second gentleman there on her right, are walking in front of the Treasury building. We're gonna, I see her sister as well. I'm gonna try to see if we can try to grab their attention. Madam Vice President! All right, we're trying to get her to come over here, Aaron. So far, no luck. She was just asked, I will say, Aaron, how does it feel to be the first? And I believe what she said was, you know. I think that is what she said. So this is obviously a moment that for her, you know, she's very much soaking in. She's keenly aware, of course, what this means to be the first female vice president, and also being not only that, the first female president, the first female Black president, also of South Asian descent. This is a very big deal as you're watching her walk down Pennsylvania Avenue here in front of the White House for what is a momentous undertaking these next 4 years for her and President Biden now.
It certainly is, and as she walks along this route, Jim Sciutto, I know, sort of you're standing as they're getting ready to walk to you, so you can obviously see the press in the open bed check here, give everyone a sense of there may not be a lot of people there, but there are a lot of press. So Jim, what do you see right now from where you're standing?
Well, I see the Vice President walking here in front of the White House, the first woman of color with her family. A word about the security here, and it is a relief. It is nice to see this. It was not certain that she or the President would leave the motorcade, but they did. We've been able to see them out here, but it speaks to the security risk that they were only able to do that for the final 100 or 200 yards or so of their trip into the White House in the old Executive Office building. What's your first job? Walking to work's her first job. Of course, Aaron, we should note, her office is in the old Executive Office building, just here next to the White House, and that's where she'll be walking to work today. And I think that's part of the message today for both her and the President. They are hitting the ground running. They have lots of work to do. They're going to be executive orders today. They're going to be ironing out and revealing their plan to handle the pandemic today. This is all happening today. A moment to celebrate. As she said there, she's getting to work.
That's right. And as she gets there to the White House, there's going to be that slew of executive orders here over the next hour or so. And of course, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, is actually just being sworn in herself, going to also be swearing in the two new senators from Georgia, as well as her replacement senator from the state of California. So all of that still to come here over the next hour. These moments, though, as she's walking there, holding the hand of her great niece, these are the moments perhaps that are the most important for her, certainly for the president himself as he walked with his family. That moment, and it's a very brief moment, as we all know, right before that work begins, to share this with your family. What do you actually see around as you see them waving? Can you describe, Jim, because I think you're closest right now, sort of who is the waving to? You know, usually we would all be there and there would be crowds, you know, but tell me what you're seeing off camera. Yeah.
It's a great point, Aaron, because normally there would be crowds. There'd be members of the public here. You'd have a whole reviewing stand, but the fact is, it's journalists, it's security, it's members of the military, some government officials, for instance, the D.C. mayor was just down here, but not that public event as it has been in the past, and that's a sad fact of where we are today in this Capitol. Where I'm standing, where the White House is, where the Vice President is surrounded by 25,000 D.C. National Guardsmen. Many circles of security extending out several blocks from here. That's what was necessary to secure this place and this moment following the events of January 6th. That's a sad reality. On the good side, they were able to leave the motorcade, to walk, to wave, and to get to work today. But we can't forget what was necessary to make this moment possible. And it is all that security that you don't see in this moment around us. And frankly, the vast majority of people are going to watch this on their television screens, right? Not in person, sadly.
Right, right. And you know, I guess when you have to take a step back, that's true every time, right? You think about around the country, right? How many people can actually go? Although we all are now forced to share this in the same way, perhaps has its own level of togetherness. It is a good thing, as you point out, that they were actually able to get out of that motorcade, although I know Brianna and Kate were talking about, obviously they couldn't get out of the car until very close to the end here by the White House. As the Vice President walks in those gates with her entourage and her family for the first time as Vice President, Bakari Sellers joins me, an early backer of Harris. Bakari, you know her well. You watch this moment. What does this moment mean for her personally, right? As she is here right now walking with her family.
I mean, it means so much. You see her, her husband, you see Tony and Maya, you see her nieces, Mina and Mina's children. You know, you saw Doug run over and hug Reggie Hunlin, and you know, he's well-known for being the director of House Party, produced the Django. His wife is Kamala's best friend. It's a small family affair, but for her, I think, in particular, her mother is smiling down today. She and Maya are going to share a very special moment today. For little black girls around the world, today means so much. Just to watch her walk in with the swag, to watch her walk in with the dignity, to watch her walk in. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of the shouted question that reporters ask all the time, Aaron, but to hear them say Madam Vice President, it just means so much. Today she stands on the shoulders of Fannie Lou Hamer. She stands on the shoulders of Ella Baker. She stands on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm. She stands on the shoulders of Hillary Clinton. And she has shattered so many glass ceilings that today, even if you didn't support her or vote for her, this is history that we're watching. Let's scratch that. This is her story that we're watching. And she's doing it with so much grace. Today is just an awesome day, and I hope and I know my wife is sitting at home watching with our two girls bawling at the history that's being made with Kamala Debbie Harris.
The Vice President now at work there in the office building. And as we have said, these very important moments happening, the symbolism happening, and they are going to work. A slew of executive orders. She herself, the Vice President, as I said, going to be swearing in 3 new Democratic senators, including the 2 Democratic senators from Georgia. All of that coming up here over the next hour. Bakari, one thing that you said there, and you talked about the significance of this, you know, you're talking about for your wife, your children, for little black girls, and for people, for everyone of any party. And you know, one thing I wanted to say to you, I think that is so poignant and true. For young children, boys and girls, no matter the color, they will never remember a world where a woman wasn't a vice president. It will never be a thing that needs to be achieved or a thing that needs to happen. And it is so important to make that point, an apolitical point. The symbolism of the moment cannot be underestimated. I see it with my own daughter, right? It is a hugely significant thing.
It is, and when you think about everything that she represents in this moment, I got a good smile out of Howard University's band. It's not something that's seen on CNN often. how they came in with the high knees and the drummers and the dancers. The historically black colleges and universities that are on the scene now, from Reverend Raphael Warnock, who went to Morehouse, to Yogananda Pittman, the new U.S. Capitol Police Chief, to Stacey Abrams, whose shoulders they rode in on. You begin to see that there is more to this country than we've seen in the other 48 vice presidents of the United States of America. Number 49 is slightly different. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, so the Divine Nine and these sororities are now on the forefront, and they're organizing, and their extracurricular work, the work they do in communities and community service, and people are now getting to know that. So while we want to talk about the policies that she'll implement later and which way and what executive orders they're going to do, I think today is a day where we can actually talk about the history and everything that this black woman embodies as she walks into the halls of the most powerful place in the world.
And now she is in those halls. She is there, getting to work, as of course we have a parade to come and the big performances tonight. Phil Mattingly is our senior White House correspondent. So now that she has walked in those doors, Phil, with the second gentleman by her side for that first entrance as the vice president, tell me what her first moves in the White House are.
You know, I think when you talk to administration officials, they kind of echo what President Biden tweeted just a short while ago. There's no time to waste, and certainly I'm not stepping on what Bakari was talking about in terms of history in this moment and what it means, but I also think when you talk to administration officials, they acknowledge what they're facing as they walk into this moment, this historic moment on so many different levels, and that is a multiple set of crises, whether it's economic, whether it's public health, whether it's racial divides, all of these issues that they're going to try and address straight out of the gate. I think in about an hour, Aaron, you're going to see President Biden start action, if you will. And I want to be contextual here. This is not massive overhauls of things. This is not going to change the direction of everything in the country. There are limits to what the federal government can do just with the stroke of the president's pen. But the president has made clear he's going to implement a series of executive actions, some related to COVID. There's going to be a mask mandate for federal buildings, a number of them starting to roll back what his predecessor put into place, whether it's halting funding for the building of the border wall, whether it's re-entering the Paris Climate Accord, several different areas where the administration is both taking action but also trying to set a tone for what they're going to be doing in the weeks ahead, what their priorities are. You saw the administration this morning release the outline of an extensive overhaul of the immigration system that includes a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented immigrants in the country. You've also already seen them lay out the details of a $1.9 trillion stimulus plan. That will take Congress. That can't happen today.
Right.
You are going to see in the next hour those executive actions start getting kicked into gear, and while they will have an impact kind of on a smaller scale, particularly on the federal level, what they will do more than anything else is lay out a tone of what this administration is going to focus on, going to try and accomplish over the weeks and months ahead, legislatively, as well as what the president can do himself.
And some of these, you know, many of these executive orders, I think, as you point out, are not. Some of them reverse things President Trump did, right? Halting the border wall is an example, reversing the Muslim ban is another example, right? But many of them are not. They are new. They are new things, right? That President Biden wants to do. Another thing that, you know, some of these are, as you say, pointing out the tone. One of them, I believe, Bill, requiring non-citizens to be included in the census, and in how we count congressional representatives, and in how we apportion where those districts are. I mean, these are things that would be a significant change.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I think, look, when you talk to advisors and when advisors have been given briefings over the last couple of days, they make clear, they understand the scope of things. They make clear, particularly on the issue of COVID and on the economy, things are going to get worse before they get better. But I think they understand, and this dovetails a little bit with what Bakari was saying about the history of the moment and recognizing where they are. They recognize that on day one, this is the moment where everybody is paying attention. This is the moment you get to sit, you get to set the tone. You don't get a redo on this moment. And so I think they're trying to set that tone over the course of the day. But I will also acknowledge, when you talk to them, they make very clear, this isn't it. This isn't going to be enough. We need to do so much more. And I think the big questions that will come over the course of the next several days, and it's not just going to be today, over the course of the next 8 or 9 days, you are going to see kind of a laser-focused day-by-day message with executive actions on issues like immigration, healthcare, more on COVID starting tomorrow as well. But they acknowledge more needs to be done, and that more is going to require Congress, where they have very slim majorities in the House and in the Senate, and where they're going to need bipartisanship, as the president laid out this morning in his speech.